What's up, lore masters? In the last video, we had discussed the Battle of the Chintaka system and even noted the relative wastefulness of that action. While it felt like a major success at the beginning, as I had discussed, it was more just a morale booster than any large gain. The Federation Alliance never truly held the sector or even the Chintaka system after this battle, and before it would be retaken, oh yeah, spoilers, the fighting in the system would be excessively, almost unreasonably tough. When the Klingons led an offensive to gain more territory, the Dominion inflicted at least 30% casualties and then ultimately stopped their advance. The Dominion counterattacked, of course, and this would be devastating to the Romulan Star Empire, though the Riansu would hold the line. Kind of interesting that the Romulans and the Klingons are taking the brunt of this war now that I think about it. Huh. At the end of the day, it was costing the Federation Alliance quite a bit to simply hold that system, and they weren't making any more advances. On top of that, the dialogue that is utilized here is exceptionally confusing. At the beginning of the episode, we have Worf stating that the invasion of Cardassia was stalling. While it's possible he meant the operation overall, they are so far away from Cardassia that it doesn't make a ton of sense. Unless Klingons aren't good with maps, which may actually make more sense given the Klingon War that we see in DS9, again now that I think of it. You could also argue that he was talking about the entire area as Cardassia, so the Chintaka system was Cardassia, kind of like invading Hawaii is technically invading the United States. But the problem is, they're technically invading Dominion territory. To be fair, it is only this specific piece of dialogue, and we know that Worf is under a lot of stress. So we can just write it off as him not being in the right mind. His actions more showcase that things are also very, very tense behind the lines, on all fronts. As an example, Admiral Ross approaches Colonel Kira about stationing a Romulan presence on Deep Space Nine to help with wartime operations. When Kira resists, Admiral Ross advises her that he isn't asking, he's telling her. It's always fun how people constantly tell me about Starfleet and damn near yell at how they are the good guys. And if we're talking about the DS9 series specifically, they proclaim that the Federation respects Bajoran sovereignty, and they don't impose their will on them, unlike the Dominion. It just shows me that these people don't watch the show as much as I do, and yes, dear friends, that makes me a better person. Anyway, even though Kira is initially resistant, she finds herself becoming decently friendly with the Romulan liaison. The Senator requests that a Romulan medical hospital is placed on one of Bajoran's moons, specifically Derna. The current war means that it is hard for the Romulans to get medical treatment at the front lines, and somewhere closer than Romulus would assist them in saving lives. Bajor agrees, and the Romulans, being Romulans, begin installing defensive emplacements including 7,000 plasma torpedoes. Their treachery is found out when they denied treatment to a Vulcan medical ship to hide what they were doing, even though they claim that they didn't think that it was a big deal to install these emplacements. Intriguing. Bajor would immediately withdraw its permission and demand the Romulans evacuate immediately, and the Federation would send a formal letter to the Senate condemning the actions of the Romulans, and then not assist the Bajorans in removing a hostile actor on their territory. Starfleet would sit back and do nothing. In fact, Admiral Ross has an aw shucks moment when Kira asks him what they are going to do, and he admits there isn't anything that can be done. People get very confused when I discuss Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Discovery. There shouldn't be any bewilderment here. Starfleet Admiralty has always been filled with pragmatic hypocrites. I generally always have two opinions when it comes to Starfleet ethos: the pragmatic opinion and that of the idealist. Starfleet ethos is an ideal. Now don't get me wrong, it is extremely pragmatic for the Federation, albeit probably doing it in a begrudgingly pissed off way to allow the Romulans to bully Bajor and install weapon emplacements on Bajoran territory. After all, Bajor can't really defend the Romulans. However, it is a complete betrayal of Starfleet ethos and everything they stand for. Starfleet Admiralty was more than willing to allow Bajoran blood to be spilled for the Romulans to set up military bases. If it wasn't for Ross taking unilateral action, Starfleet would have proven right here it is no better than the Dominion when push comes to shove. They would have spit in the face of Sisko's speech at the end of Rules of Engagement. And here's the ugly truth according to the writing. My dearest lore masters, Starfleet has never been better than the Dominion, at least in spirit. Individuals like Admiral Ross, Sisko, Picard, and others are better than the Dominion, and that's what made Starfleet special. That people like Picard or Sisko or Kirk or Janeway and others made a choice. And when they stopped being a part of Starfleet, as we see they have in Star Trek Picard, we see the natural conclusion. Anyway, ranting aside, Ross would say that the emplacements couldn't be removed and Bajor prepared for war. Ironically, the senator had scoffed when Kira said Bajor would guarantee the safety of the hospitals, and this incoming battle proves why that's a lie. The senator's concerns are more than justified. When Bajor has to stand by itself, it could only field impulse vessels that would have minimal armaments, while the Romulan Star Empire was sending D'Deridex warbirds. Romulan leadership would believe that the colonel was bluffing, but they would quickly find out that Bajorans generally don't do that they are willing to die to stop something they believe to be oppressive. And, of course, during the blockade, the wormhole would suddenly open again. This would inspire Kira to get a lot of people killed, as most religious people do when they think their god is giving them commands, and yet it's unclear what is happening. And, in what will be used to prove that there was some divine providence, they got lucky, as the warbirds would ultimately pull off due to Admiral Ross threatening to remove the Romulan weapons himself. In the end, the standoff is honestly a small note. Some might even consider this a filler episode, but one who looks really sees the truth of the Romulans, the Bajorans, and even the Federation. However, the Alliance would still stand strong and persevere. They would continue to fight. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.